You'll never amount to anything, Sophie. You're just not cut out for academia, Professor Jenkins sneered, his condescension as thick as the tweed of his blazer. Save yourself the time and tuition and drop out now. Stick to something simple. Maybe secretarial school, I gritted my teeth so hard my jaw ached, the familiar tang of fury and humiliation burning the back of my throat. I'd heard variations of this speech a million times, from a million interchangeable old white men convinced they knew the sum total of my potential. Well, fuck that and the Ph.D. they wrote in on. I wasn't here for their approval. I was here to change the goddamn world. And no amount of pompous peacocking from the tenure track was going to stop me. I shouldered my ratty backpack, meeting Jenkins' smug gaze with a steely one of my own. You know what, Professor? You're absolutely right. I am dropping out. But not because I'm not cut out for this ivory tower circle jerk. Because I've got better things to do than waste my time and money jumping through hoops for small-minded dinosaurs like you. His bushy eyebrows shot up to his receding hairline, shock and outrage purpling his pasty face. But I was already turning on my heel, a giddy rush of liberation buoying my steps. Today, I kissed academia goodbye. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'd start building my empire. An empire of green energy and sustainable solutions. An empire that would leave old farts like Jenkins choking on their research grants. I couldn't wait to see the look on his face when I collected my first Nobel Prize. But first, I had work to do. A planet to save and a point to prove. And nothing, not narrow minds or student loan debt or the echoes of 1,000 you can'ts, was going to stand in my way. 10 years later, I stood at a podium in front of a sea of dignitaries in tuxedos and ball gowns, a crystal award heavy in my hands. Flashbulbs popped in a dizzying strobe as I stared out at the creme de la creme of the sustainability world, my trademark green tech gown glittering under the lights. Wow! I breathed into the mic, the crowd hushing in anticipation. This is such an incredible honor. When I started Viridian Technologies in my mom's garage a decade ago, armed with nothing but a crazy dream and a maxed-out credit card, I never could have imagined I'd be standing here today, accepting the Global Sustainability Award for our advances in renewable energy storage. Applause rippled through the ballroom, the sincerity of it raising goosebumps on my skin. These weren't the polite golf claps of the academic set, but the thunderous appreciation of people who knew how hard I'd clawed for every inch of ground. The road here hasn't been easy, I continued, my voice wavering only slightly. As a college dropout with no formal credentials, I faced a lot of closed doors and skeptical looks. A lot of people told me I was crazy, that I was tilting at windmills trying to solve the unsolvable, that I should just give up and leave the big ideas to the experts. I let my gaze sweep the room, taking in the sea of rapt faces. Well, I've never been very good at listening to naysayers. And thank God for that, because if I had, we wouldn't be here tonight, celebrating a breakthrough that could very well change the course of our planet's future. More applause, whoops and whistles punctuating the thunder. I grinned, riding the wave of their belief, their energy. This was what I'd fought so hard for. Not the accolades or the awards, but the chance to make a real, tangible difference. To leave the world a little better, a little brighter than I'd found it. But I didn't do it alone, I said, my throat suddenly tight. None of this would have been possible without the tireless work and unwavering faith of my incredible team. The brilliant engineers, the visionary scientists, the scrappy entrepreneurs who took a chance on a green tech startup with more moxie than money. They're the real heroes here tonight. I turned to face my team, arrayed in their finest sustainable couture, their faces glowing with pride and a few happy tears. Viridian fam, this award is for you. For every late night and lost weekend, every prototype that blew up in our faces, every investor that laughed us out of the room. We did it, guys. We fucking did it. The crowd roared as I thrust the award into the air, the crystal catching the light in a dazzling prism. For a moment, I let myself bask in the glow of validation, of vindication. All those years of blood, sweat, and bitter tears, all leading to this shining pinnacle of success. But even as the flashbulbs seared my retinas and the applause battered my eardrums, I couldn't shake the niggling sense that something was missing. That for all the accolades and accomplishments, I still hadn't quite filled the yawning chasm in my chest, the one carved out by a lifetime of not measuring up. I shook off the melancholy, pasting on my most megawatt smile for the cameras. Tonight was a night for celebration, not existential crises. I'd fought too hard and come too far to let the ghosts of my past haunt the halls of my triumph. But later, as I stood on the balcony of my hotel suite, the glittering skyline of Geneva spread out before me like a twinkling tapestry, I let myself acknowledge the restless itch beneath my skin, the hollowness at the core of my being. I'd achieved everything I'd ever dreamed of, had proved every doubter and detractor wrong 1,000,000 times over. I was Sophie goddamn Novak, the green tech wunderkind, the sustainability darling, the dropout who'd built an empire out of spit and grit and sheer fucking stubbornness. And yet, some small, scared part of me was still that lost little girl, waiting for someone to tell her she was good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. Still craving the approval and validation of people who'd never seen past the thrift store clothes and secondhand textbooks to the blazing potential within. People like Professor Jenkins, with his tweed blazers and dismissive sneers. People like my absentee father, who'd walked out when I was 6, claiming he couldn't be tied down to a family that would never amount to anything. People like the trust fund kids in my freshman comp class, who'd snickered behind their manicured hands at my Jersey accent and my 4 a.m. barista calluses. I'd thought that proving them wrong, rubbing their noses in my success like a naughty puppy who'd piddled the rug, would finally quiet the doubting whispers in my head, the nagging sense that I was a fraud, an imposter, a scraggly weed masquerading as a hothouse orchid. But even with a Nobel Prize in one hand and a Time cover in the other, I still felt like that grubby little girl, pressing her nose to the glass of a world she'd never truly belonged to. A world of country clubs and cotillions, of legacy admissions and trust funds, of summer homes in the Hamptons and winter chalets in Aspen. A world that would always see me as Sophie from the block, no matter how many zeros graced my bank balance or how many dignitaries fawned over my innovations. I sighed, the crisp alpine air burning my lungs. Maybe it was time to stop chasing the validation of people who would never truly see me. To stop measuring my worth by the yardstick of their low expectations and snobbish disdain. Maybe it was time to stop running from my roots, from the grit and gumption that had propelled me to the top of my field. To embrace the rough edges and battle scars that made me uniquely, unapologetically me. I thought of my mom, who'd worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads and food in our bellies, who'd never once let me believe I was anything less than destined for greatness. Of my Nana, who'd taught me to roll with the punches and come up swinging, her arthritic hands gentle as they wiped my tears and patched my scraped knees. They were the ones who'd believed in me, who'd fanned the flames of my ambition when the world sought to douse them. They were the ones who'd made me the woman I was today, the woman who'd stared down skeptics and scoffers and clawed her way to the top on sheer moxie and a prayer. And they were the ones who deserved my gratitude, my loyalty, my unflagging devotion. Not the Professor Jenkinses of the world, with their myopic worldviews and crippling lack of imagination. Suddenly, the way forward seemed crystal clear, sharp as the alpine peaks glinting in the moonlight. I knew what I had to do, who I had to be. I had to be true to myself, to my roots, to the indomitable spirit that had carried me through every trial and tribulation. I had to embrace my inner Jersey girl, my scrappy dreamer, my unshakable conviction that I could change the world with nothing but brains, brass, and a refusal to take no for an answer. I had to be Sophie fucking Novak, the college dropout turned sustainability queen, the green tech maverick who'd built an empire out of recycled parts and sheer force of will. The girl from the wrong side of the tracks who dared to dream bigger than her circumstances, who'd thumbed her nose at the naysayers and forged her own path to greatness. And I had to pay it forward, to use my platform and my privilege to lift up other underdogs, other misfits, other square pegs in a world of round holes. To create opportunities for brilliant minds and bold ideas, regardless of pedigree or credentials or social capital. To build a world where the Professor Jenkinses were the outliers, not the norm. Where curiosity and creativity and grit were valued over conformity and complicity. Where every dreamer had a chance to turn their crazy ideas into reality, to leave their mark on a planet desperate for solutions. That was my true legacy. Not the accolades or the awards or the glossy magazine profiles. But the lives I touched, the minds I ignited, the world I made a little brighter, a little more sustainable, a little more just. And it all started with a choice. A choice to believe in myself when no one else would. A choice to take a flying leap off the edge of convention and build my wings on the way down. A choice to be unapologetically, unabashedly myself, Jersey accent and chip on my shoulder and all. A choice to be the motherfucking dropout. The renegade. The world changer. And I'd make that choice again 1,000 times over. Because it had led me here. to this moment of crystal clarity, of unshakable purpose. I turned from the balcony, my sustainable gown swishing around my legs, my trademark combat boots silent on the plush carpet. I had calls to make, plans to set in motion, a revolution to ignite and an empire to expand. And I couldn't fucking wait, because the world hadn't seen anything yet. Sophie Novak was just getting started, and God help anyone who tried to stand in her way.